You often state that you work in opposition to the establishment or mainstream. As your practice has grown to a much larger office, 120 people, how would you describe this urge to resist today to the mainstream and to the...
I think I used to equate, having a professional practice with mainstream thinking. And I think that I've matured to understand that you can represent resistance and stealthily get into the center of the action and then perform your critique in a generative way. So rather than just, critiquing, it's more like inventing and educating people and building consensus and actually making some real change. And so that's a maturing process. So, I think that, from the 70s and 80s, this notion of resistance always meant from the outside, and now I think it's infiltration into the middle.
Well, it's interesting. I think, by the way, one of the great successes of Lincoln Center was that it didn't start with a master plan. And equally, when we started working together, we didn't start with a master plan. We didn't sit and say, one day, this is what we're going to be. We just kind of bumbled our way along. And I think we're still in a way in terms of bumbling. Yeah. So we're still bumbling along in terms of being inefficient. If we became really good at this, we'd make money and become corporate. But it's not the way we work, because we've kind of, in a way, maybe trapped ourselves in a situation, but it's one that we love. And we'll just continue to bumble along and try to figure out what it is we want to be.
We call productive inefficiency.
Could you comment, Liz, you mentioned in one of your interviews, you said we always wanted to be outsiders. In the art world, we wanted to be thought of as architects, and in the architecture world, we wanted to be thought of as artists. So why...
We've achieved that.
Why is that? What prompted such position?
You're asking really hard questions, because I think that it's, in a way that's self-evident. It's a way of being able to selectively play by the rules, and in a way it's like a confusing. It's like it's like producing a little bit of. Of a space between us and the system in both directions. So we basically make it up,
I would like to go back to several of your projects to discuss your intentions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And before that, could you state what are the main intentions for your work? What are the main intentions, without going into specific projects?
I think to democratize urban space, to democratize the arts. We're very interested in spaces for culture, and making those spaces accessible, to kind of break down the walls or the dualisms between high and low culture, and between even like those dualisms between high technologies and dumb technologies, so architectural materials and smart systems, so it's like breaking down lots of extreme polar opposite things. We're very interested in spaces of education and collaborative, interactive space, how to rethink it for today's ways of thinking about our disciplines, and translating them to better spaces for thinking and work and good work. Things like that.
Yeah, also, I think the analyze program, to be critical of the program, to analyze the program, try to understand what the issues are that have to be defined and how architecture can define them.
But also, we're also troublemakers, and
You are.
yeah, I think so. But we're like doing both. We're making trouble, but we're also resolving problems at the same time. So that's maybe where
It's
things change a
interesting.
little bit.
Several times you mentioned that you don't know, ahead of time
yeah.
how it's going to be. You didn't have a massacre. But isn't it risky to be in front of a client? Or do you ever say, I don't know? Or you change your language? You change. I talked to, just a few weeks ago, I was in Paris and I talked to Paul Andrew, who did all the airports around the world, and he told me, and now he has a very small, it's just him. He lost all his work and because of a couple of accidents a number of years ago. And anyway, he left that agency that used to do airports, and he's no longer doing airports.
It was the engineer's fault.
But what's interesting that he is now a little bit more honest with himself, and he told me that all my life I lied to my clients because of certain experience that he had early on, when every time he would doubt his work, he said he would lose it. So he very quickly learned that you cannot be totally honest with your client, because if you don't know, then the client gets nervous.
Right.
So probably when you are in front of Lincoln Center board,
but
you find different.
But we never go and just say, this is our idea, this is what we will go and have 6 ideas.
Oh. So you have,
and we will involve.
But then
the
who will
client.
choose?
No, Rick, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. We work through a lot of. We typically we don't wait for a lightning bolt. We work on multiple things, but when we go in, we actually really know what we want to convince the client to do.
But there's a process of getting that. We do work with the client with a number of options and directions.
So as far as the intentions, if I want to touch some of your key projects, like for example the Bloor building, which is over 30,000 fog nozzles structure, a machine that produced artificial nature. It was an exhibition where there was nothing to see and nothing to do. A spectacular anti-spectacle, right? You called it. And it was architecture of atmosphere, machine for making metaphors. You said...
That's pretty good.
You said the project rethinks our dependence on vision. What are the ultimate objections and intentions for that project? What were your ultimate intentions for that project?
I think it was... to make in the context of an expo, a national expo, as it has been the tendency in expos and World's Fairs and those kinds of national, international, extravagant shows, is to use technology against itself. And it was like the ultra low definition space. And I think it was a critical project around the use of technologies that, in terms of simulation of the real. And we deliberately wanted to kind of cast a question on what these technologies mean. So we used very sophisticated, smart technologies that were thinking in real time, actually was an intelligent system, to produce an obstacle in our, dependence on the master sense of vision. So, which made all the other senses acutely more sensitive.
Other than the Hanover.
It was after Hanover.
After Hanover, and everybody was complaining at Hanover. There was so much technology, so much high definition viewing that it was fatiguing and exhausting and debilitating for.
So you opposed to that?
So we were opposed to that. Also, just the idea of making a building out of water was such
it was perverse. That was also
delicious
part of it.
idea, yeah.